Hi, this is Jazz Obrecht. Welcome to my Talking Guitar podcast. During the early 1980s, Andy Summers of the Police emerged at the head of an innovative new school of guitar playing that valued textures, tones, and the spaces between the notes far more than showboating solos. When Andy joined the Police in 1977, the group was initially perceived as a punk trio, but it soon evolved into something much more. Given the instrumental skills of singing bassist Sting and drummer Stuart Copeland, Summers deliberately pared down his guitar style. As he explains in our interview, the band discovered that they had three soloists, so his approach to the guitar became very harmonic and orchestral. Police's first albums were Outlandos de Amor, Regata de Blanc, and Zenyatta Mandata, which brought them top 10 hits with De Do Do Do, De Da Da Da, and Don't Stand So Close to Me. Andy's solo on the track Driven to Tears is one of my favorites of the 1980s. The band's fourth and most ambitious album to date, Ghost in the Machine, came out in October 1981. It topped the charts in the UK and reached number 2 in Billboard. Four of its songs became hit singles: Every Little Thing She Does Is Magic, Invisible Sun, Spirits in the Material World, and Secret Journey. The Police were on tour in America supporting the album when I met with Andy at A&M Records in Santa Monica, California on February 9th, 1982. The evening before, the Police had headlined the Forum. I found Andy to be easy to speak to, extraordinarily articulate, and remarkably unaffected by his meteoric rise to fame. He is, in fact, one of the most insightful interviewees I've ever encountered. Here's our complete conversation.
What can you do with a synthesizer that you can't do with an electric guitar?
Well, I mean, like very specifically, like the Roland, for instance, has got the thing where you can add the intervals, the duet switch. Do you know about it?
Yeah.
Do you know much about it?
Basically.
It has the duet switch where you can add any interval on top of the original note, which is great because once you start, playing chords and things like that, you get a huge sound, and and it's got the filter control, which you don't really have with a guitar. I mean, you can have it with an envelope, like a wah-wah pedal, that kind of thing, but it's different with a synthesizer. It's different really altogether. And also, you can use two. What I've been doing, I've been recording with Robert Fripp recently. I was using two of them together, two controllers, one tuned down an octave and one tuned up an octave. Amazing.
What would that allow you to do?
Allow you to do? Well, I mean, what it does, it just gives you an incredible sound. You can just get this huge, very wide orchestral sound. Everything sounds amazing. It just takes on a different sort of dimension altogether, really. Than it's so much bigger, the sound, for a start.
Yeah.
And it makes you, because of the sound. I mean, I think this is a real feature of modern music and effects units and everything, and just modern playing in general. The sound makes you play in a certain way. If your vocabulary is wide enough and you have enough of your references are wide enough, certain sounds will make you play in the style if you can play it that way.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? So the synthesizer, in particular, I mean, the way it makes me want to play usually is in sort of 20th century classical music. That's what I sort of go for with it. I really like it, and that's why I wanted to see the 700 so much, because the GR300 is good, but it's pretty limited really in terms of its tonal resources at the moment.
Yeah. Have you always been sort of a texturalist in your approach to playing?
Well, I've always been fascinated with that side of it. Yeah, I think so. I mean, I've done all the. I mean, as a guitar player, working in the modern world, one tends to cover most of it. I mean, I've been playing a long time, so I've played most styles and things. But obviously, like most people, there's one sort of certain things that really turn you on most, and things that you you want to hear it in other music, and you want to hear it in your own playing. It's for me, it's more like a feeling or an emotion that you want to emulate or have come back through your own music. And I think that's what I'm always looking for: a certain spirit or a feeling, rather than a certain string of notes. Though it's always a string of notes or chords that make you feel that way. You know, that's what music is. So. I lost the point now. Yeah, you were saying about texture.
Were you ever one like for long solos and stuff when you were coming up?
It depends. Really, I cut my guitar cloth according to the band. Really, being in the police has given me a great opportunity to explore things like texture, because I played classical guitar for a long time, and I went to university in America and studied music for 4 years. And so, I had a sort of musical education, and I've been listening to that kind of music for years and years. I never really had the opportunity to be able to explore it in a group. And being in a three-piece group and playing with a group that emphasized space a lot, with this sort of picking up sort of reggae rhythm and turning it around a little bit and having this very wide sort of spacey rhythm, it gave me this great big hole to fill with textures and harmonies that hadn't been available to me in groups before, because normally I've been in groups with other, like a keyboard player.
Yeah.
So you've got that sort of middle area where you really, there's a conflict. You've got to sort of play around each other. I mean, it can be great too, but I mean, just to have the whole area open.
Yeah.
To play, and all I I know the bass line, so I mean, I can play around, I can play on and off of them, and sing around what I play.
Right.
So it has been interesting in being able to change harmonies a lot and experiment with texture in terms of, various modification devices and things like that, things I can do, and, changing the chords and all that. So it's been, the guitar playing has been sort of texturally oriented in this group. So I think over the 3 years, I mean, the group generally has been honing its style. Because I think we got onto a fairly original way of playing early on in our career. Of approaching a three-piece group. I think people recognise that. So it's been a question of defining it more and more, and like each of us defining his role and the role of the instrument.
Did you go through a process where you consciously abridged your playing? Abridged. Edited it down.
Well, yeah, the group generally, edited a lot of things out at the beginning, because I think, we're all good players. We've all been able to play, like, the power stuff, trio stuff and all this, and blues and everything. So we could have, like, come on as a real heavy power trio rock group, but we don't want to do that. Yeah, we're trying to avoid that kind of thing. So in our very earliest days, it was sort of heavier and punkier than it is now. But that was while we were gradually, Sting started to write these songs, and we got into the reggae thing, and then it started to come to us, and all one sort of subconscious material started to come to the surface, and be able to put it into the band. So it started to come, and the original thing started to emerge.
Right. What's the secret for to play reggae properly, from a guitarist point of view?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is with reggae, really, for the guitar, I mean, a lot of it it's just rhythm. It's just rhythm, I mean, what you've really got to get into are the bass lines and the drum parts more. The guitar playing is just, it's a certain feel to it, but what you really got to do is listen to a hell of a lot of records and sort of soak it up. It's like osmosis. That's the way, that's the way you really learn anything. Just continually listening until if you're playing, play along with records. Finally, if you have an ear and you have rhythm in your body, you start to feel it, and it will come out when you're playing, depending on how much talent you've got.
What are the best kind of chords to use?
They're all very simple chords, really. I mean, they're like A minor. They're just like straight chords. Reggae is a simple music, and the musicians don't play sophisticated chords really, because then it would not be reggae. They're all fairly straightforward diatonic chord sequences.
It sounds like you cut them down.
Yeah. Well, what I like, with the Police, you see, we don't really play straight reggae. We didn't just go, all right, we're now a reggae group. It was just taking really all we did was take the sort of rhythmic element, and then we sort of, incorporated it into whiter pop songs and add a little bit of punk, and then we got these sort of jazzy and strange harmonies, and so it became something else really. It became, hopefully, what we could call police music, rather than just pure reggae. I mean, there are other English groups certainly that play much closer to like ethnic reggae than we do.
Yeah, for sure. Is there a difference between what you play with the police and what you play when you're by yourself?
Yeah, I probably play much farther out on my own and play things that I don't play with the police. Some of it is in the police, and yeah, I mean, certainly as far as solo playing goes, I think when I'm on my own, I play much more in a jazz vein.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't really. I'm just not interested in practicing, like rock lead guitar anymore. I can do it, and I do it a bit with the police, but it just grew really old for me.
Yeah.
And there are so many guys that are so good at it. It's not an area I'm interested in competing in, because I think my ears go for other things, and there are other styles of guitar playing that are much more interesting to me. And so my own solo playing is much more jazzy and linear, but I don't really do it in the police. I've done a lot more of it on this album I've made with Robert Fripp recently, and probably will do it in other projects outside.
Yeah. Do you view the guitar as an unlimited instrument?
I think so. Well, it really, depends upon the player. I
You.
think it's not. I don't think you ever master the instrument. I don't think that's possible.
Can you play most of the things you can hear in your imagination?
Yeah, if I work at it, not always. It depends on how much sleep I've had the night before.
Your textures, do they come from your head, and do you find them on the instrument, or does the instrument suggest them to you?
No, a lot of it, I hear it. It's like hearing first. It's like writing music on paper without an instrument. I think I can hear it and then go to the guitar and find it, which I think in a way is a much better way, because, if you play an instrument, it's like the old thing about composing on an instrument that you can't really play. You're more likely to come up with something original. You pick up your guitar and you're so facile on it, you go into all the cliches and and that's the way it is. If you got a piano which you don't play or something, you're more likely to come up with something. Because I think it's the same thing about trying to hear sounds in your head, that and then they're really hard to find. But if you can hear them, then they're there somewhere probably. So yeah, I do like it's the sort of thing I like to sit on when we're on the airplane or something and think about things like that.
Yeah. What's your philosophy of soloing?
Soloing.
What do you think a solo should do?
Well, I think it should be ideally it should carry a person. It should have peaks and valleys and highs and lows, and it should have real climax. It should be organic, and it should be like a song. It should breathe. It should really be like someone singing, I think, in its most ideal form.
Yeah.
It depends in lots of ways, because when I make a statement like that, it sounds like it's a really flowing kind of thing, which it doesn't have to be, because if you take someone like
done.
I do a lot of one chord held for 10 bars can be a solo statement, and I'm certainly into doing that, and that's a lot of what I do with the police.
Yeah.
Because in a sense, like on some of the songs with the police, when we get into the sort of free areas where we improvise, it's like we're all soloing totally all the time. And like one song, like Shadows of the Rain, which it's all chordal at the end. We have a long passage at the end where Sting sort of basically drones around in A minor, and Stuart plays various rhythms around him, and I play everything that I can think of really, but I'm not I'll go anywhere, and but it's all chordal, and it's all like swell, great sort of clouds of sound and feedback and clouds and harmonies that are totally against what he's doing.
Yeah.
But I find it really exciting.
Do you know what you're doing in musical terms?
Yeah.
You do. What's the extent of your knowledge of music?
It's pretty thorough. I mean, I've studied harmony totally, and I've studied 20th century composition.
Uh-huh.
And
what other instruments do you play?
A bit of keyboards. That's about it, really.
No, you play classical keyboards, I understand.
No, guitar. I play classical guitar for a long time.
Do you have to be in a certain state of consciousness to play your best?
Yeah, I think so.
Do you know what that is?
For me, it's just feeling good physically. If I feel really good well, there are certain, like, I think in any performance, there are certain mystical things that you can't pin down. There's situations right, the acoustics of the hall will be right.
Mm-hmm.
You feel good, and everybody feels good at the same time, and sort of proximity to one another on stage. And it happens. It's hard, you know, some nights are great and magical, and other nights it should be, and it isn't. You know, it's not, I mean, it's competent, but it doesn't have that thing that, you know, like that night everything opens up, and it's wonderful. For me, I think it's usually when I feel rested and I feel physically good, and I'm in the mood for playing, and those are the nights when it really happens.
Do your emotions come into it? Affect the way you play?
Yeah, I think if I'm really happy and feeling good, I'm going to play better, and it will reflect in my playing. I mean, I think playing is a real mirror of the way you feel.
A lot of guys want, when they're mad or bummed out, they say that's when they play their best.
Yeah, I can see that. That's, to me, I think it's a slightly romantic view of yeah, oh man, I really got down.
Got the blues.
Yeah, well, yeah, sure, maybe. But,
can you play yourself in and out of moods?
Yeah, I mean, if I went on stage and I was feeling bad, but, you know, I ripped off an amazing song or something, yeah, I'd feel pretty happy. You know, I mean, I feel my whole psyche is totally bound up to the guitar. I've played all my life. And I certainly know when I was young, you know, as you get older, you don't, and you've been playing longer, you're probably able to be more objective and live with things a little more. I know when I was younger and first playing, I lived from gig to gig. It was a bad gig, then I was bummed out all week. It was a great gig, then I was on top of the world for a whole week, and that's the way it went. So, and it's still that way to some extent, you know, despite all the success and everything that goes on, it really all comes down to how well you're playing.
Yeah.
For me, you know, I feel my, you know, psyche is completely bound up with the guitar stuff.
Mm-hmm. When did you start playing?
I was about 14.
You what, 32 now? 33.
Yeah, around that.
I do a little research. What made you start? Was that your first instrument?
Yeah. Oh, I was just given the guitar, and
for Christmas or something.
Yeah, and I just started. But I mean, it was like an obsession immediately. I was given one, never ever put it down.
Were you, when you started out, were you leaning more towards innovation or imitation?
Imitation.
Really? Who?
Oh yeah, I mean, I was watching TV and trying to play like the guys on TV. After about a few months, I sort of learned how to play D7 and G7 on the guitar.
Oh, look out.
Yeah, wow.
Songs.
Yeah, I got into listening to Django Reinhardt and people like that very quickly.
That's real high for somebody 14 or 15 years old.
Yeah.
Did it feel a relative of yours?
Yeah, because my older brother was a real jazz fan, and that's, I think, how I got into it. A little misty now, I think that's how I started.
Did you learn chords and leads at the same time?
Yeah, I was trying to figure it all out, but of course the stuff I was listening to was pretty heavy, you know, difficult stuff, you know. So I eventually, you know, started playing things like the Shadows tune, which is a group called the Shadows, and easy stuff like that.
Yeah.
Then I went on, and you know, because I never ever put the guitar down, so I was always playing. You know, after a couple of years, I got quite good at it. I suppose. You know, and I was listening to all kinds of like American jazz guitar players like Barney Kessel and Kenny Burrell, Wes Montgomery, people like that.
Do you remember which were the first solos that really gave you the chills? That just stopped? Wow.
I think the one that I just played over and over and over again was recording of Nuage by Django Reinhardt. And it's the one with the clarinet player on. I can't remember which recording it is.
Uh-huh.
I remember listening to that one and listening to the runs he played out. I just think it was amazing.
Where were you when the blues boom came?
I was in London.
Really?
Yeah.
Were you playing that style then?
No, I wasn't. I was. I steered right away from it because everyone was doing it. Everybody was trying to be Jeff Beck, and I was so into like people like Wes Montgomery, Kenny Burrell, these kind of players, and sort of black American jazz. That I really didn't want to swing over to that. And I was playing at that time in a real rhythm and blues group. We had a Hammond organ and we had 2 saxophones, and we were playing like lots of James Brown and Jimmy Smith tunes and all this sort of American black, sort of R&B, jazz, that kind of funky vein of music that was kind of sort of mid to late 60s, you know, sort of organ-based music.
What did you think about psychedelic music?
Well, I was in London and, you know, I was doing what everyone else was doing.
Yeah.
And eventually, we became a psychedelic group. And I, you know, young and foolhardy at the time, and we had a light show, and I went right through the whole thing and started playing acid rock.
Is seeing any other players influence the change in your playing?
Actually seeing them, probably not as much as like having listened to people on record. I don't even really listen to people on records that much anymore. I can't really think of one person that I would say, well, that's it, I'm going to play like that. Let me think back, yeah. No, I mean, I actually saw Wes Montgomery playing in London once. No, I can't really say that.
By somebody like Hendrix?
Oh yeah, I saw him play lots. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, it's great to see Hendrix. I mean, I saw him before he was even Jimi Hendrix almost. I remember when he first came to London and he hadn't even started or made a record. And it was, I mean, at that time, it was just mind-blowing.
He sure opened up the sound.
Yeah. Well, I went down to his club and there he was, and he was playing, I think, Brian Organ. Chaz Chandler, who was his manager from the Animal, he said, look, he was a friend of mine, said, look, come see this guy, you won't believe it. I went down, and he was up on the stage, and there was this guy, this huge afro, like nobody I've seen him. I mean, the hair for a start, and he had this jacket on, and he had a white strap, and I walked in, he had it in his teeth, and he was like, what? Yeah.
And music's never been the same.
No, and that was it, you know, it was just like this thing that happened. It's great.
When did you start? You were playing classical and jazz. When did you start getting into effects and stuff?
I think really, like seriously, and in recent years more, like I started working, probably in this group, you know, before this group I had maybe, you know, like sort of MXR, Phase 90, sort of scotch tape to the floor, usual thing. Then I got to the point where I got an Echoplex. I wanted to start working with an Echoplex to open the sound in the group. And this was really early on in the Police, and I got an Echoplex. And then I heard about this guy, Pete Cornish.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of him.
Yeah, well, I have one of his boards now, you know, and I went and met him and talked with him. And he was obviously the man, you know. He was, as far as pedal boards went, I think he was way ahead of anybody, and I think he still is. I don't think there's anybody to touch him. So after a while, I had enough bread to be able to get one of these boards made by him. I don't know if you've ever seen one of these boards.
No, what do you have in it?
But what I have in mind is I have a Phase 90.
MXR?
Yeah, MXR Phase 90, an Electro Harmonix flanger, MXR fuzz, an analog delay, Neutron 3, and a compressor. And they all go out and back from the Echoplex. I have 2 Echoplexes. One's just a spare. They're both very old Echoplexes. Valve Exoplexes, yeah.
Yeah.
Very rich sound. And basically, they're all preamps, so they're all the same volume. They know which one you switch to. In other words, the volumes don't change. You know, you just get a different effect.
Yeah.
And you've got a row of switches down here, and then lights.
Uh-huh.
So you know you can see everything. It's very visual.
Do you have preset controls that kick on 1 or 2 effects at once?
That's right. Yeah, I have a button. In other words, like you know, here's the button here, and it says, you know, Phase 90 or whatever, and then the controls will be up there.
Yeah.
The original controls, because they're all taken out of their shells, obviously.
Right.
So, you know, however I want to set the thing, I set it.
Yeah.
You know, and then and then there's a master effects on and off. So in other words, when it's off, nothing's going to come on, although the lights will show. I can press them down so they're on. Mm-hmm. Until that one's on, nothing will come on. So in other words, if I want like echo with flanging and compression in the middle of a song, I just hit the one button and it all comes on together, right, that effect, and then I switch it off.
That's Cornish's work?
Yeah.
What's your philosophy of using effects?
I think they should be used. I mean, you have to be judicious and musical in your use of them. I think if you like play everything with flanger, it's just going to get really old fast. Yeah. You have to continually change it and use the straight guitar sound as well, which I do, so that when you use the effect, it is an effect, and then it goes off. And I think that's the main thing. You can't, because there's a real danger of playing with a sound all the time, and once you turn it off, it just sounds really dull.
Yeah.
You know, really, the straight guitar ought to sound as good as the effects. So I think you have to try and keep it in perspective. But I'm certainly into using them. With the Police, it's opened up the sound a lot, and with the Echo, I've been able to get lots of sort of double rhythm effects and make it sound like two guitars playing. And I like to use.
How do you do that?
Well, I set like the analog delay and the echoplex against each other, and you get you know, it sounds like two going, like they sort of syncopated rhythm comes out. You're just playing bum 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 bum, and you get this double thing going on.
What are the best effects to use if you want to compensate for not having another guitar player in the band? And you want to have the sound carry on while you switch into a solo or something else?
Well, I mean, once you're on a solo, I mean, you're sort of to bass and drums, really, aren't you?
Right.
I mean, you can't. There's nothing you can switch on that's going to like play a chord while you're. I mean, in the Police, both Sting and I have bass pedals, you know, not mini, but Moog bass pedals, which you can sustain long bass notes with. And Stuart plays his drum kit through an Echo also, which gives him a double, that almost makes him sound like he's playing two drum kits at once. You know, like he hits snare drum,
yeah,
and you get all these rhythms going, then you start playing against the Echo rhythm, and it starts to sound huge after a while. So there's never any lack of sound, really.
How much does equipment matter musically?
Well, I have two approaches to that. I like to think here in 1982 that there's one, you know, the old thing, I mean, a song is a song, and it's got to stand up on its own anyway, you know. And then what goes on record is something else, because there's a song, but people want to hear sort of what's on the record. And I think with some of the Police material, the effects and the way the sounds have been modified are an integral part of the music.
Mm-hmm.
They really belong in the music.
Right.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but how much can you take from the studio and do on stage?
Oh, we can reproduce virtually everything we do.
Really?
Yeah, and we try to think of that, really. We're a group that goes out and works, and, you know, I use my pedal board and the same gear in the studio. So, really, I can produce virtually everything I do in the studio back on the stage again.
Well, what's the difference between your live and studio playing? Which is easier for you?
Playing live, I think. Really.
It is?
Yeah. Oh, it's you know, really, I much prefer to play live. I like being in the studio as well. It's just, it's a different kind of work. It's more, there's more stress attached to it, and you strive, you know, sometimes it happens really spontaneously. I mean, with this last album, I think we had some real good spontaneous moments happen where we didn't really, but you have to start working at it in a studio. It starts to show, I think, on the tracks. It starts sounding laboured.
You like to get it very quickly?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If possible.
Do you plan your parts out?
Well, I take the song and then sort of work with the song, you know. Mm-hmm. Like, okay, if there's a basic, I mean, the way we work is to get the basic track down with guitar, bass, and drums first, and that's it. Mm-hmm. Get a really good feel. I mean, the most important thing always is the drums, to get a really good drum track.
Yeah.
Once you've got that, you can put on the bass again. Yeah. If the real feel is there in the drums, then it doesn't matter after that what you do. You know, you've got the basic drum track, and he's played the right parts at the right times. Everything's in the right order. Then you can even put the bass part on again. So what we go for is bass, drums, and guitar first. Try and get a really good feeling take. Then Sting will put on the vocals, and then I'll build up the guitar parts from there. And, you know, really in a way, it's like painting a picture. You know, you try this, you take this color in, you pull this one out, until you surrounded the song.
Ice yourself much in the studio?
Yeah, I'm amazed I can still play the guitar.
Really?
Yeah, I think we try to, you know, pull those elements out of ourselves and try to push it all the time. I mean, we're very harsh with one another, like in terms of severely editing one another's playing a lot of the time.
Pulling stuff off the tracks?
Yeah. So you can't, no, don't do that rhythm, don't play that chord, play this, no, that line's wrong. And until we get the best out of one another, and we reach, hopefully, compromise is too weak a word for it, but an agreement that it's better than one of us would have got on his own,
A lot of bands couldn't survive that sort of thing.
Right, it's heavy going all the time, yeah. But our interest eventually is all in the same place, to get the best record and treat the song the best way, and so we live with it.
Would you say you're self-critical?
Highly, yeah.
Really? Have you ever had, do you ever go through slumps?
Or like sort of plateaus of playing where
where
you could get up again.
You can play the same thing, but it's hard to take it beyond it.
Yeah, I think all players do. If you're a player, that plays all the time, and your life is playing, I mean, who can possibly go on year in, year out? It's just going up and up and up and up. There's bound to be times where you go up a bit and then you go along, and then you start and you go up. I mean, for me, I'm very aware of what you're saying, and I'm always continually trying to, improve, get my playing better, and like take it up a bit more, or like open a new area.
Yeah.
Of playing. Being in a band like this, where the pressure is so great and we're touring all the time, it's like I can never play the guitar because I'm always playing the guitar. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I really would like to have a lot more time to sit down and just practice and like forget about all the bullshit and just playing on my own, because I love to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So for me now, like really moving up the scale musically, as it were. I need time, off to practice. When I go home, I'm on my own. I've got a studio and tape recorders, and I really get down with it. I play all day long.
It's in England?
Play with people in England, yeah.
Yeah.
And I always, I mean, being in this band and being successful and everything, it hasn't sort of changed I haven't gotten fat with it, like, right, now I made it,
Has
let it go. I just want to go on and on,
Yeah.
and getting better and pushing it.
Has success been what you imagined it would?
So it's a difficult question to answer. Yes and no. I could just talk about it a bit.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, you get the money and all the stuff that goes with being a sort of high-level, successful rock band. I mean, a lot of it, I don't have to spell it out for you, I'm sure.
What are the disadvantages? Everybody has the images of the advantages.
I think there's a great deal of sort of personal stress involved. And it's hard to keep perspective on things. They're all things that you reach. They're all cliches, but they are all true.
Yeah.
There is a tremendous amount of stress involved, and remaining civil and nice with people, and trying to maintain a normal private life. It's become very difficult.
Mm-hmm.
And sort of trying to remember who you were before and what it was like before this started.
Does it make the people you knew back then more valuable to you?
Yeah, I think it does in a way, because you can go back to them and they're the same and they're right and they know who you are, and you can sort of be like you.
Yeah.
You sort of remember as you, oh yeah, that's one. Yeah, okay, now I got it, yeah.
It's hard when a lot of people are telling you stuff about yourself that you don't.
But you come to the gig tonight, just stand around afterwards and sit and watch.
I've been to hundreds of them.
Yeah, and you see how many people come out, and we go through this routine now known as pressing flesh. And it's, how many times can you be told in one night that you're really great and boy, you guys are really bitching?
Especially after you had a bad night.
Yeah, and it's not always great, and we're going, oh, we really suck tonight. And people, oh, you guys really blew it. And people really mean it, and they're nice. It's just, it wears off. You can't.
You long for moments of sincerity.
Yeah. It just gets kind of strange. So, I value time alone and privacy probably more than I used to. I think me personally, I've always been a fairly private person. I like to be alone, and now it's really precious, because I like to get back to things that I value that are sort of outside the rock syndrome,
Yeah. When you were a kid, did you ever imagine that you'd become a rocker? Was that ever one of your
Well, I was always interested in jazz, really, and then I went on and I always was a serious musician, always like trying to be, because it was very natural. I really loved music and I wanted to play and I wanted the knowledge of music, and I eventually went to college in America and I studied and I got into all this stuff and I led my life. I went back to England and I got back into playing rock because in my personal life I was confused and a lot of things happened to me.
Yeah.
And I went back to what I knew in the end, which was playing electric guitar, which is the only thing I sort of felt secure with. I went back to that and sort of felt in a way that I suddenly became conscious, after being unconscious for many years, and
Sure.
And started to decide, right, I'm right here, and I'm going to have a career now, and I'm going to do it on the guitar. So I was looking for the opportunity, and I went back to England, and eventually it came.
Are you happy with the way it's going?
Oh yeah.
With where you're taking your playing?
Yeah, because we're getting to the point now. The group is obviously very successful, and we can go on really as long as we want. I think, as long as it stays fresh musically. But all sorts of other playing opportunities are arising now. And I think that's good because it gives us all a chance to get outside the group and reaffirm that we're still able to play with other people outside the group.
Mm-hmm.
Because this existence can become very sort of sealed, and you can, it could become like an ivory tower, and you can forget very easily, I think, what you're like as a player. And I think it's important to go and be challenged by playing with other people who don't just play in the police, and that they might be really very good and challenge you as a player. So it's important for me to do that. So those are the opportunities I'm looking forward to enjoying now.
What sort of things are you doing with Robert Fripp?
Well, the original idea was to do a 2-guitar album, just 2 guitars, and I thought maybe we just to play with 2, guitar duets all the way through.
Old style?
Well, not really, no. But then, what it came to, and I think is the right way for it to go, is basically I regard it as just 2 musicians playing and making pieces of music together. Mm-hmm. And it is guitar based, and most of the pieces we've done so far have started off with 2 guitars, and then some of the tracks I've added guitar, synthesizer, and some percussion and bass, and I've opened up the tracks. And it's been very exciting and stimulating, and we're going to finish the album off in May, the end of this tour, and hopefully have it out in June.
Mm-hmm.
It's sort of very contemporary sounding, slightly Eastern in places. It's hard to sort of categorize it. It's a lot of different things all put together.
Do you know Eastern scales and stuff?
Yeah.
Have you studied that?
Yeah, I studied indie music for 3 years.
Where at?
In England.
There's some specific questions I wanted to ask you about techniques you have.
Yeah.
You play slide guitar a little bit?
Yeah, I used to. I was very into it for a while. I used to play a lot. Yeah.
Did you play it on Next to You and It's All Right?
Yeah, I did. Yeah. Those are the only bits I've done it on.
Right. Yeah. What kind of slide did you use?
I had some very heavy brass slides made specially in England that you couldn't buy. I like to have really heavy slides that you can't buy commercially, and they're quite big ones like this. I like them because I think you get a lot more tone out of them. Mm-hmm. And on Next to You, it was just a standard open E tuning.
Uh-huh.
And I play in E and G.
Uh-huh. Yeah, those
are the ones, yeah.
Yeah. How did you know the song Peanuts?
Yeah.
How did you get so many notes into the solo? What was your technique?
It was, yeah, right.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot that song. I really like that one. I like the bit where the drums, the bass stops and it breaks, and it's just like that.
Yeah.
It's sort of like Ornette Coleman guitar in a way.
What were you doing with your picking?
I was probably going for a sort of sheets of sounds,
Uh-huh.
So sort of deliberately almost like playing wrong, badly, like trying to get 2 or 3 strings all at once, so you get that kind of sound. Not trying to play cleanly, but trying to get that effect, like a sheet of sound, more like sort of Coltrane or Ornette Coleman, where you get that sort of effect. I like a great sort of clusters and flurries of notes rather than cleanly picked single lines.
Would you rather,
Because of the excitement factor, really.
would you rather sacrifice technique to get emotion? And
Oh, absolutely. You know, what's the technique is only a means to a musical end. There's no point there otherwise.
We're in the town where technique comes.
You know, I know, and some of the worst music in the world comes out of this town. I think it's a horrible, awful syndrome of Hollywood guitar playing that I really detest personally.
It's
Some
not
great guitar
innovative.
players. Boy, the music they come out with is so dreary.
You know, I'm on the
I'm gonna be
mailing
killed
list
for
for
this.
the records. They're awful.
Yeah. Oh, you know who I'm talking about. I
Sure,
don't
I
name
do.
any names, but
You don't have to. I know them all. I know.
yeah, I mean, boy, some of that stuff is just awful. And to me, that music reflects a lifestyle and a lot of money and living in a place and
It's
really losing sight of what it's all about.
sometimes it seems to me like it's a non-musician's image of what the music should be.
Yeah.
If it's not a
That's a
musical
good way of
mind.
putting it. Yeah. Yeah, I really agree. I think that's it.
And then once in a while, some players will come along who will blow up the same as someone maybe like Van Halen or something. And then after a little while, and
He's coming tonight.
that's part of the sameness.
Yeah.
It's funny.
Yeah. No, it's yeah, you can see it all going for the same things, you know, sort of fat, rich sound, you know, and this sort of fluid style that a certain thing that they've all got, and it reflects like Hollywood in the guitar, you know.
Yeah.
It's like I find it really gross and slightly sick. It makes me queasy when I listen to it. I can't stomach it.
Yeah.
And there's
Keep waiting
harmonies,
for something to happen.
sort of secure, like happy harmonies that they always put in the same places. There's sort of certain chord sequences that they all use.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to go back and listen to like Ornette and Coltrane. I mean, even someone like James Blood Ulmer is so much more exciting to me.
Yeah.
You know, I saw him in London yesterday. It was great.
Really? He's kind of inarticulate about his music too. Speaking about it, it's funny.
Yeah.
I
Well, I think a lot of really great players are. They're not always articulate people.
You did what I thought was the best solo of last year, the one in Driven to Tears.
Oh.
That just blew me away. It's like a miniature composition.
Yeah. I know the solo you mean.
Was that off the cuff or planned or?
That one, actually, we went in the studio and said, right, there was a whole left of the guitar solo. It was one of the last things to do my going. It was the first one I played.
Right.
So it straight went, wow, and did it.
So weird.
Yeah. I said, wow, that's really great. Yeah. Because he was like, we take turns sort of producing each other.
Yeah.
I said, yeah, it was good, but maybe I can do it better. So keep that one because there were maybe 3 or 4 tracks left. So I did a couple more, but that was the one.
It's definitely an unusual statement.
Yeah.
Have you ever had solos before you've had songs to put in?
Well, I don't know. I mean, everyone has this sort of repertoire of licks, I suppose. No, I don't think so. Because really, to me, like that song, it's about not too many cameras, not enough food, etc., etc. It's about the state of the world, and the solo is supposed to reflect the angst that the lyrics are talking about. And so that's why the solo, in a way, it is angular and angry, rather than sort of, if I went in there and did a Larry Carlton type solo, it would have been terrible. It would not have worked at all.
I know, but it's so short and it says a lot. That's the thing.
And that to me is, I'm glad you like that one, because I like that one, and that's the kind of thing that we're going for, and trying to make it short, but really to the point, and to have power in a short statement.
What are your favorite rhythm and sort of solo tracks you've recorded for the Police?
Favorite rhythm? Oh, let's see. Well, I mean, to me, I only think the best track we've ever recorded is "Message in a Bottle." I love that song, and I like the guitar licks at the end. I think they have a nice sort of joyful quality, which really the whole song is. I just love that track. It's a great drum track too. I think guitar sound on "Walking on the Moon" is particularly good. And I like the synthesizer break in the middle of "Don't Stand So Close to Me."
Is that whole song played on the Roland, and then you switch it over?
On stage, I think I played it on a Strat in the studio because that was the first time I had the Rowan, and then I thought, oh, well, let's try this thing out, and did that. But I actually played the whole song with that guitar on stage. Also, I love the bit in the middle of Secret Journey. I don't know if you've listened to that.
Yeah, the massive effect. What is that? How did you do that? That was one of my next questions.
Yeah, it's like I'm playing really, peculiar chords on the Strat and feeding it back at the same time and wanging the tremolo arm. And then I've also got like a background of guitar synthesizer playing in the middle part. There are two sections. There's like yeah. There's like an opening minute and a half of guitar synthesizer chords. Right, with all those sort of chords going, and then there's the break in the middle, which is the two guitars together. But I like the way it stops, and you suddenly drop into this hole, and you get that great sort of Himalayan sheet of sound comes towards you. It's really that's
real unusual use of space. You guys all have that. It's sort of unique. I read some interview where you likened it to a painting.
Yes.
So Oriental art.
Very much so, yeah. I know the interview you're talking about. I mean, just to paraphrase that, those kind of qualities, that space and being able to pull people in by using space so they sort of fall into the hole that you've prepared for them. Musical seduction, really. And same thing in painting, you see, It's that space that pulls people in because they have to sort of fill in Gestalt psychology, and a thing called closure, which talks about the same thing, where you provide a space and people close it with their own minds.
Right.
And I think on stage now we're getting we're to the point, the three of us, where we can improvise and all stop in the wrong place at the same time.
Great.
And the audience go, and they all realise they're feeling the rhythm like that, and then they suddenly realise they're feeling it, and they have this shock. They sort of all wake up to feel they're doing it, and you hear this massive gasp from like 20,000 people, and then they're into it, and then you get this big sort of circle of energy going. We're playing and they're responding, and then we keep stopping, and they fall into it again, and it's really worked so well.
Do you take a lot of chances on stage?
Certainly try to. We always have areas where those chances are available.
Yeah.
I mean, the one we're playing with, having fun playing around with at the moment is a song called One World.
Yeah. Which
is sort of very reggae dub thing on the album, and it's going down so well on stage. And then we stop in the middle, and we play beats that seem in the wrong places, and we stop, and they think the song has stopped, and then it starts again, and you get this whole thing going. It's really good. Yeah, it's good, great fun, and we dance around a bit because performers as well. So you do the whole thing. It's good.
In Bombs Away, what scales were you using?
Oh yeah.
Weird.
I get all that these songs. Yeah. That's it's like a sort of minor pentatonic, I suppose. It'd be something like. I mean, I can't even remember.
It's almost kind of Eastern.
Yeah, it would be something like G, A flat, B flat, B, and C. 5 notes. G, A flat, B flat, B, and C. Yeah, like that.
Cool. In Masoko Tanga.
Yeah.
Is there a backwards guitar track in there?
Piano. Backward piano. Yeah.
Who's playing it?
I think I played the piano. It's just like
that's a strange.
Forearm on the piano. That's sort of like this kind of thing on the piano, holding it, and then just playing the tape backwards while you record that. That's
real deceptive to try to figure out what it is.
Great sound. So lovely. Yeah.
How did you get the sustain? Bring on the night. You have that one part that just sustains and sustains. I think it's maybe a note or a very small chord.
Yeah, it was just like the amp cranked up.
Really?
Yeah. In a room that worked that way.
In Spirits in the Material World, you had sort of an Oriental sounding instrument. There were 2 tracks you were.
Oh, actually, what that is it's the little melody.
Right.
It's just a guitar played up very high and plucked, dry. Palm on the string.
Right.
And
muting.
And a setting on a Prophet. I'm just blending the two together to get that kind of sound.
Oh, it sounds nice.
Yeah.
What's the origin of Behind My Camel?
Well, the title.
Well, I know the time was so.
Well, no, I mean, yeah.
Did you have that for a while? That song, the melody.
Yeah, I put that one together about 3 months before we went into records, and the other one day. I wrote that in Ireland actually. I worked out the melody on the organ. I think it might have come out of like playing to a drum box, that one. I got this sort of, bossa nova plus rock one and tango, all those things, and they all
Set it to a number.
Yeah, that's right. I was up for Grammy actually.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
I'm not tired of that
now. That you've only written it, Omega Man you wrote, right?
Mm-hmm.
Have you written a lot of compositions that have?
Oh yeah, great deal more than appears on Police albums, and some of it's been used in France this year for a movie.
Really?
And I did some French commercials with a lot of music I wrote this year, and then I've done all this stuff as well.
How do you play vibratos? Depending on where you are in the neck, what's your favorite way of getting it?
Well, I mean, I suppose like anybody, the way you do it,
But hundreds of ways.
Are there?
Sure.
Because I only know one way.
Which way?
Well, I bend the string and I.
With which fingers?
I use the third finger.
And you put the other two behind it?
No.
No.
Not really. No, I don't do that kind of thing. I only use one finger, really, I think. More or less.
Comes more from the wrist?
Yeah. What I like to do is, I like to hold the note and then, just as it's dying to give it the vibrato, not like, but.
You like notes that open up then?
Yeah. So you just hear it right at the end, so not rather than, there's a subtle difference. It's more exciting if you, just as it's starting to die, it gets the thing.
How do you hold the pick? Here's the guitar player questions.
Hey, yeah. Between my teeth. No. Well, like that. Between, forefinger, thumb, and, depending on what I play. I use two different picks. For like sort of jazzier, sort of more flowing, lead stuff, I like to use a small fat pick. I use a Jim Dunlop Jazz 2.
Oh, one of the smaller spectrums?
Yeah, I like it. She gives it a sort of thick sound in it. For me, the physical feel of it in my hand makes me play a certain way. And for most of the stuff with the Police, where it's more, I use a slightly larger, thinner pick, where there's more rhythm going on, because it's more general. I like a slightly bigger pick.
Do you have conscious patterns that you follow?
Right, playing lead stuff?
Yeah, picking patterns, when playing leads. Or, do you use downstrokes more than upstrokes?
In rock stuff, I think, you use downstrokes more. And I'll use a lot of downstrokes because you get that kind of feel into it.
Reggae especially? Is that mostly down?
All down, yeah. Yeah, reggae is nearly all downstroke, and then if you're playing funk, you've got to get a really, I like to play funk rhythm. That's what we like to jam on in our sound checks. We play it for hours,
Really?
on the neutron. Yeah. And you've got to get a really loose right hand, wrist for that. I really enjoy playing that because, you can play what seems like a straight rhythm, but there's so many rhythmic nuances you can put into it. I really enjoy playing that a lot now. There was a real nice, and we did a good one on the, there was a B-side of, it was probably on the last single, what's the single for Every Little Thing? It's a song called Flexible Strategies, and it's just a funk thing.
Mm-hmm.
But it's basically like around one chord, like an A minor or something, I can't remember that. While I'm playing a kind of hard funk rhythm. And then there's a long guitar solo that goes virtually all the way through the song, which is like totally against the harmony that's being played, really. It's really sort of atonal and really works for me. The sound is very searing, but the notes are, somewhere else. They're sort of like E flats and B's against an A chord and F sharps. It just works really well against that. Mm-hmm. That's the scale against it. That to me was interesting. It was like funk with a sort of atonal, I suppose in a way like something like James Blood Ulmer is doing, sort of, because it seems to be the area he's moving into.
Do you rest your hand on the guitar when you play usually?
No.
Do you play harmonics with the pick?
I do different harmonic. Yeah, I mean,
What are the methods you prefer?
Well, I do like the Lenny Brogue style harmonics, you know.
With the finger in front of the pick?
That kind of thing. Yeah, you know, how do I do it?
Brogue does so many different kinds.
Yeah, well, that I do. I played Lenny Brogue a couple of times. And then there's the, you know, obviously the standard harmonics.
Yeah.
Which everybody knows. And then play, you know, hitting it with a pick and catching it with your fingernail at the same time, so you get the sort of harmonic and the note at the same time, which is very, I think, effective in sort of bluesier playing. You know, you get a kind of a Albert King kind of sound.
Do you ever do the one where you're holding the pick like this and you mute it from behind? I saw a kid do that, a heavy metal player. It was real unusual, but it sounded great.
Yeah.
So he's holding the pick, but he's got a finger behind it instead of in front of it, like Lenny would do.
Well, so you know, I don't.
So you're holding the pick, and then your middle finger is just touching the string behind it.
Well, so you get a harmonic ring off it?
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's real weird. It sounds good though.
Sounds like a sort of Eddie Van Halen. He's into all of those.
Yeah, I don't think Van Halen uses that one. No.
That's an interesting one. No, I'm sure there are more to be explored.
Do you use many open tunings aside from the slide stuff you've done?
No, not with the Police.
Uh-huh.
I do like open tunings a lot, but
yeah. Do you have the guitar sound you want?
Guitar sound I want? Yeah, I'm pretty pleased with the sound I'm getting on at the moment on stage. It's not perfect. I'd like to get it better.
Uh-huh.
To me, I'd like it to be cleaner and dirtier at the same time. You know,
give me a break.
Yeah, sorry. I mean, on stage, you know, we play these big auditoriums. I use 2 Marshall 100 watts. You know, they're both up about halfway.
Oh, you have them both on?
Yeah.
Are they stock?
Yeah. No, they're slightly souped up and they've got better valves than normal, which Pete Cornish did for me.
Mm-hmm.
What I mean is I like to get a slightly better, creamier lead sound and a much harder, brighter sound, I think, for straight guitar. At the moment, they're slightly too distorted for my, you know, ultimate taste. You know, the sound is very good, but it really, you know, I have to have a sort of workhorse situation where I go on stage and it carries me through everything more or less okay. In the studio, I mean, I take a lot more time and, you know, we'll experiment with a lot of different amps and, you know,
do you have a normal
amp
studio
for the song, you know,
yeah,
whatever it is, whatever it needs, and I'll get it.
Are you a collector per se?
I don't think I am. I mean, I have, and I always feel embarrassed about it, so I have a lot of guitars.
I've talked to guys who have 500.
Yeah, okay, I got 40 guitars, you know, and I really don't want them, you know.
Don't say that to too many people. No,
I know, it's
14, and that's more than enough for me.
No, see, I do not want to have a house full of guitars, so there's something ridiculous about it to me.
I know.
What are you going to do with all these amazing, you know, I'm more interested in collecting paintings than I am guitars.
Really?
You know? Yeah. You know, okay, these good, I love, you know, beautiful old Gibsons and Fenders. I mean, it is nice.
Mm-hmm.
But to me, having so many, it frustrates me in the end. You know, I went through a period.
You hate to see them go to waste.
Yeah. You know, I think 10 guitars is it for anybody, really.
Sure.
You know, if you're a working guitar player, you don't need, you know, how many can you play? You get more out of it by just having one guitar and playing it all the time.
Yeah.
All this, like, you know, it's a real, if you want to collect guitar, I mean, and they take up so much room. Which I like Jewish monk, they take up so much room. But really, they do it. I mean, it gets inconvenient after a while. And I like to offload a lot of my guitars. I really would.
What's your favorite piece? The Telly?
I suppose it is. It's the one that I always play.
What's the story on it?
Well, it's just a guitar. I was teaching guitar in California a few years ago, and this kid sold it to me. It was a guy I was teaching. He didn't want it. I don't think he knew what it was going to weigh. I got it for $200.
How long ago?
7 or 8 years ago.
That's about right.
Yeah, it's a 63 guitar.
63?
Yeah. Great guitar.
Yeah. What's distinctive about it?
It's just, I don't know, the neck is perfect. It's one of those, the way everything in it is great. And I put a humbucker in the front.
Yeah.
And it's got this standard pickup in the back, but it's also got like an overdrive, real funky thing that this guy in the San Fernando Valley sort of scotch taped this thing in the back.
You remember who it was?
can't remember his name.
Paul Revere.
No, can't. I wonder if I'm going to find out. Might be able to find out.
Is it an old humbucker from old Gibson?
No, it's just one I bought somewhere in LA.
What kind was it? Do you know?
It's a Gibson humbucker.
It's a '63. You said?
Well, the guitar is, yeah.
The best neck I've ever played in my life was I had a '63 tail.
Yeah.
Unbelievable neck.
Yeah, well, maybe, yeah. And this is a sunburst, with the band edges.
So you have like just a natural finish?
Actually, no, I think what it is about this guitar, somebody told me, I think the neck is off a 58 Strat.
Really?
Because it's a maple neck, and I don't think they made them with maple necks.
What kind of, does it have, what kind of peg head is it?
Small head.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I think it might not be the original neck, because I showed it to the guys at Stylus Music in New York and said this is off a Strat or something. I don't know. Well, anyway, I don't want to question it too much because it really works. And I've tried so many different guitars and I've never found one that came anywhere near it, really.
What do you look for when you try that guitar? Do you usually know right away if it's something you love?
Well, I think, you can almost tell right away, but you can't always be sure because sometimes you work with a guitar, you adjust to the sound, and you start getting into it.
Yeah.
I think it's something to do with the overtone series in a guitar that it works better on some than others. It's something that you can't sort of make happen. It sort of happens on its own. I really believe, and I've said this in interviews before, there are certain mystical elements in the building and putting together guitars that no matter how hard you try and make your blueprints, there's other things that are going to work. I mean, you hear stories about guys in the old days when they were in the late 50s and 60s when they made guitars, the way they used to wind pickups. Some would get more than others, the phone would go, so there'd be more windings than the previous one. And all these kind of things made for a certain kind of bunch of guitars.
Yeah, like those old Gibson PAFs.
I know, it's amazing, and why is it none of them sound that good? Is it just age or is it something else?
Yeah.
I don't know, I mean, because, no matter, any guy who's been playing for a while, who's been into electric guitars, the standard was sort of set, 20 years ago, and it's very hard to get away from that. Everybody's conditioned by it, I think.
Yeah.
Everybody's still, all these players are still playing the old 335s and the old Telecaster, but they are, aren't they? Really?
Les Pauls.
Let's face it. I feel sorry for a lot of modern guitar manufacturers in a way because they're having to overcome this tremendous sort of obstacle of an era.
The problem is, like Fender and that, they're going to reissue the old ones.
Yeah, I know.
And if players are going to buy them, they want to completely stop. So they're going to have to repeat the mistakes they made 20 years ago.
That's right, yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
They have better bridges, but they can't stick them on it.
Uh-huh.
It's kind of silly when you think about it.
Yeah.
It's like past tripping or something.
Yeah. What it is beyond that, it's just that sound, there's something that happened, and it's a strange sort of phenomenon. I don't think it's just nostalgia.
Yeah, you should. Well, you're moving ahead and a few others.
Yeah, well, I do. I mean, I'm really trying, and I work with Hamer, and I've been using a Hamer on stage, and, the guitar synthesizer. It's just trying to bring it all together. I'm certainly for, working with the modern guitar makers, and, like Joel Danzig from Hamer. I mean, he understands all that, and that's why I, will work with him. I mean, they started off as like a vintage guitar shop, those guys, so they know all about that aspect of it. And they actually made me a guitar, and they put 258 PAFs on it. Great guitar, beautiful. Actually, I'm working on one with him now, or we're going to start work on one with. Hopefully, will be interesting, which will be sort of, I don't know, it's sort of might be a variation on a sort of harp guitar and a.
Oh, really?
And
so like John McLaughlin?
Yeah, well, I don't know. What's John? He's got the
He's got those sympathetic drum strings running diagonally across the.
Yeah, what I want to do, yes, same kind of thing. I want to have two sets of them there.
Yeah.
And I want to maybe get the kind of a sort of a jazzy sound out of the guitar itself, right? Use a Charlie Christian pickup. Because there's a guy who makes them, apparently exactly the same. And so we're looking into that. We can make it with a sort of semi-acoustic thin body and like try to put two sets of sympathetic strings on, so I could tune them differently, but have them both on or off or whatever, you know, so you could play your thing and have the things ringing like this.
You know what you should get on there? Have you ever seen a harp up close with the little switch you have on each string that'll tune it up a half step?
Oh, really?
It's just a little switch you go. I was looking at harps at the NAMM show, and the guy says, "Here, listen to this." He goes, ch-ch-ch. Listen to this. A whole different. It's sort of like an auto harp effect or something, but it raises certain strings a half step. It's just a little tiny gear you could put on. You could go like this and change the whole tuning of sympathetic strings in the sound.
Jeez.
That would be cool.
That sounds great. Who does that?
There's a harp company. Harps have it.
Harps.
You know, like harps for symphony orchestra.
Oh, like real harps. Yeah.
They're very small little gears, and they just change it a half
I'll
step.
speak to Joel about that then.
And that way you could really have a lot more versatility.
Yeah. I mean, if you got two sets and you could change the ring boy, you could really
change them instantly.
Yeah.
That'd be strange.
I'll get him to check that out.
Charlie Christian took it, huh?
Yeah.
I went to Gibson a couple of years ago in Kalamazoo, and they did not have one original one from the whole time.
See, I like the sound. I like is that you get that really broad, sort of thick, middly sound right at the bottom, right to the top of the guitar.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what you like. A lot of the old sounds, like someone like Chuck Berry was sort of using like a guitar with jazz pickups in the sense, but he put the edge on it. You get that fat sound, but with the edge as well.
Right.
A lot of the modern guitar pickups, they seem to get too thin at it.
Yeah.
And I find that disturbing. Maybe because I'm conditioned, but I want him to hear that.
It does sound. It sounds cheaper or something.
Yeah.
It's hard to explain, but it doesn't do it.
Yeah, it doesn't. Even if you go for a metallic sound, it's just, with those thick pickups. So that's what I'm looking for, to get that kind of sound. Maybe placing the pickup right in the middle instead of up at the neck or down by the bridge. I'll put it in the middle of the guitar, one pickup.
Mm-hmm.
And we're thinking maybe, like the harp guitar just having two strings come off as a drone.
That'd be nice.
Yeah. So you have drones, two sets of sympathetic strings, then play, and so you get the whole sort of instrument playing and vibrating on its own, and then you just play.
That'd be good for a solo spot.
Sure. Yeah. So, and then once you start playing it with a compressor or a flanger or whatever,
Look out.
Yeah, there you go.
Do you have unusual fingerboard ideas? Do you ever play a scallop fingerboard or fretless guitar?
No, I never have. I've heard about them.
They're hard, really hard.
Yeah.
It's hard to get the right note.
Yeah. No, I haven't actually, to be honest. I like a fairly flat fingerboard, I think, really. The odd thing about my Telecaster, although it's a Fender, it's got almost a flat fingerboard.
What is it? What is it? Rosewood or?
No, it's a maple one, actually, but all the crap's fall off it, so it's like playing well on the wood.
Do you
I actually prefer rosewood.
Rosewood?
Rosewood I don't really like. I don't like ebony at all.
No? Too slippery?
Yeah. You can't get enough grip on it. For me, personally, I like the woodiness of rosewood.
Do you have your action low or?
Not unusually low. No, I don't have it right down. You've got to have a bit of tension in the strings. You've got to be able to push it a bit, otherwise it's not as exciting when you bend a string. It's like too easy almost, and I think it sort of translates psychologically. Like if you're bending an 8 instead of a 10, it's not as good.
What gauges do you run from?
10 to 46.
Do you use a particular kind?
Well, I'm not slagging any manufacturers off. I've been using Phil Lawrence, but I'm using Demarcus strings at the moment.
Do you have any unusual setup requirements for your guitars?
You mean the way they're strung or the action set?
Yeah, all that.
I like actions not to be too stiff and too hard, but I'm sort of in the middle really. I don't want them to be right on the neck.
Yeah.
I like them there to be enough there where I can work with it. It depends on the guitar really.
Mm-hmm.
It really does. I can't say I've got a Martin D28 at home, and I find that a little heavy going to play. I can't really, unless I play it for weeks on end, then I start to get be able to move a bit on it.
Yeah. Do you do anything to warm up before a show?
Yeah, I usually play. I go and sit in the tuning room and I play, scales and exercises, and I just sit down, play with myself.
Yeah. Do you ever play through music books?
Oh yeah, at home when there's more time, I'll get into that kind of thing. Yeah.
What composers do you like to?
Bartok. I like the violin duets. Play a lot of those. I play a lot of classical guitar music, and I like in the last couple of years, I like trying to play a lot of Charlie Parker tunes on guitar. I think they're difficult to play on guitar, and I often play that kind of phrasing.
Get a lot of ideas from it.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, they're as good and as challenging as they ever were.
Do you do anything to protect your hands?
No. Like what?
Well, different guys have rituals.
Well,
Chet Atkins won't wash his hands.
Oh no, yeah, I'm very, around playing time, I keep my hands out of the water. I sit in the bath with my hand raised, yeah.
Did you injure this finger? Your, this one here?
No.
It looks more full at the top than the others.
No, I didn't. I injured all these once. These are all scarred now, and through a nose, all scarred.
Oh, yeah.
All no, this hand's okay. But I do try and keep the, it's very inconvenient being a guitar player sometimes. You have to have a show like this. So.
How about when you shake somebody's hand up to the show and
yeah,
just
I tell you, that is really more timid, man. I don't want to shake hands with people, all these radio people come in and all that.
How about the people boosting guys? How you doing? How you doing? I only have a few more questions. Do you have advice you'd give other players, guys starting out? Pretty broad, huh?
Do I have advice? Like, you mean like some sort of cliche about, well, don't listen to this?
How about when you were teaching?
Yeah, well, I guess, but I would always...
What was your approach?
I always just try and point out cliches to people and like why things have become mundane, or... I think people should have and try and develop a nice iconoclastic attitude as early on as possible.
Yeah. Is your main complaint against today's guitarists the cliches?
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, there's some great guitar players around. So you got two sort of different things. Some amazing sort of guitar players, technically gifted, and with very sort of vacant minds. There's just not enough. I don't know. I think the most important thing really is to go beyond guitar playing in a way and get into real music and like listen to lots of composers and just try and find out what music is really about. Not so much like listening to well, I don't want to name any names, I suppose, but just all the heavy metal you listen to on the radio, because there's a lot more to it than that. I think the most important thing is to live a sort of full and sort of exciting life.
Right on.
Get a little heavy here. But
my idea is exactly.
Well, that's it. You should try and live a rounded out life, not be so like, if you get so in on a guitar, being playing guitar and being so living like that, you become a boring person eventually, and your guitar playing something. Yeah. And there are so many people like that,
Yeah.
Develop as a person and try and keep things in perspective.
How do you keep your sanity on the road?
Well, I beat my head against the wall for at least 2 hours
That's
a day.
particularly effective for Englishmen.
Yeah, cry a lot. Yeah, well, got to keep the size down. And, well, I go off and doing things. I like to do a lot of photography. So I'm really into that. That's a real big passion of mine.
That's mine, too.
Really?
Sure.
Oh, great.
Thank God for Ilford 400.
Yeah, that's it.
It's amazing.
I'm photographing on the road all the time, yeah.
Push it so far.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
Blows my mind.
Yeah.
What would you like to be remembered as when all is said and done?
Oh, Jesus. Guitar player for magazine. I hate these kind of questions.
Don't answer it.
You should, I should have this really snappy answer for a question like that.
What would you like to accomplish musically in the future?
I'd like to still be able to play this time next year.
That's interesting. Is there anything you want to add?
No, I don't think so.
Guys,
I just need sort of provoking questions.
Provoking. What's the worst thing you ever thought about your parents? Let's see. I think that covers what I'm looking for.
Good.
You're going to be out in San Francisco soon?
Yeah.
Great, I'm going to come see that.
Good.
Oh, have you been on other LPs besides the Police?
Oh, yeah, quite a lot.
Could you run down real quickly who you played with?
Okay, I've played with the Soft Machine, the Animals.
Or where you started with?
First band I was in was a group called Zoot Money's Big Roll Band.
Right.
Sort of mid-60s in London. And that changed into a group called Dan Tallion's Chariot.
What's that?
Dan Tallion's Chariot. It's sort of psychedelic.
Yeah. Buzztone band?
Yeah. Then I was in the Soft Machine. Then I was in the Animals. And then
When were you in the Soft Machine?
1968.
Was that after Holdsworth?
Oh, a long time before. I was in the original group.
Really?
Yeah.
When were you in the Animals?
After that.
Were you on any of their albums?
I made one album with them called Love Is.
Love Is. Was that after Every One of Us or before? Or Thy Twain Shall Meet? Was it in around there?
It was the last one they did. We did. That was probably after those albums you mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then I was with Kevin Coyne, Kevin Ayers. I played on the road with David Essex and Neil Sedal. And then I joined this group. I made albums in Europe with a guy called Eberhard Scherner. I made 5 or 6 albums with him.
Scherner?
Mm-hmm. There's some quite interesting stuff on those records.
If somebody wanted to hear the essential Andy Summers, going all the way back,
yeah,
what would you tell them to listen to?
We start off with the Zoot Money records, I suppose. Really. I think some of the best stuff is on the Kevin Coyne albums. There's a live album that's very good.
What's the name?
In Living Black and White.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the Eberhard Scherner albums have interesting things on that I particularly like. And the Police albums. And then hopefully this album as well with Fripp, which I think is really good. We'll be able to see.
Do you still plan on having a live album for the next Police?
Yeah, we've more or less got one put together. We're actually recording live here in Los Angeles now, and may add to it, or may update it. But we were going to put one out this year, but I think we're going to probably hold off and do another studio album right at the end of this year to bring out next spring, next year.
Would the live one be double record?
Probably, I think, yeah. There's enough material.
Yeah.
I mean, there is already, and we're probably going to add more to it. So there's...
Let's see if I like to. Was the guitar your first instrument that you played?
Yes.
Did you study the keyboards by taking lessons and stuff?
Yeah, well, actually, I mean, the first instrument I ever played was piano. I had 4 years of lessons for guitar. And then I studied piano again later on in college.
Did you play any Indian instruments?
I played sitar for 3 or 4 years, and I can still get around on that pretty good. That doesn't happen at the moment.
Are guitar synthesizers getting better?
I think so, definitely. Yeah, well, I mean, as you said earlier on, I think the Roland are really going to put it all together. I'm waiting to see the 700. I hope I'll be the first guy to get one. The 700.
What do you think the guitar of the future is going to be? Or what would you like it to be? You ever have imagined it?
Yeah, well, I mean, there are all sorts of interesting things seem to be happening. I mean, I don't know, I read about Pat Metheny playing a stringless guitar or something.
Oh, they have those touch guitars. You just touch the little bar on the frets and it makes a sound. You don't even need your right hand.
What is it? I mean, does it work? Does it sound good? Or?
I've never heard one. I've only seen photos of it. It's pretty bizarre looking.
I would really like to get my hands on one of those very much.
Really?
Who's got them?
I don't know. I could find out.
Could you find out by tell me something?
Sure, no problem.
I read in the Rolling Stone something like fiber optic guitars got light each set of strings as well.
Really, like an electric garage door?
Yeah, that you just touch and it makes the note or something. But I'd like to see that touch guitar. I don't know.
Do you have much problems with triggering the Roland, or have they eradicated that? That was always.
They've eradicated it. It plays great now. And that's the thing. That was the big step. They simplified it, and you play anything on pen strings, play as fast as you want, and it's there.
What are the best cuts to hear it on your records?
Well, I think the first one I used was a GR500, which you can hear sort of vaguely at the end of Walking on the Moon. It's sort of bubbling away at the end. Then it's the most obvious use of it, I think, has been on Secret Journey, and then it's also on Don't Stand So Close to Me.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of it with Robert Fripp, where I've taken it much farther, and we're playing two together at the same time. And I'm using it, two of them together in stereo, tuned an octave apart. That sounds tremendous.
I'll bet.
Yeah, I'd love to use that live. Well, Robert and I are intending to go and play together live, so maybe we'll be able to do something like that.
I love that new King Crimson album.
Yeah, it's
There's
great.
some cool stuff.
Yeah.
I didn't remember Blue being that good. I saw him on Fridays and Saturday Night Live.
Yeah.
It was great.
Yeah, it's done right.
Feedback control.
Yeah, he's really got that together.
We use feedback once in a while.
Yeah. Usually a sound check when we're being all crazy.
Well, Andy, I think this covers what I'm looking for.
Great.
An edited version of the interview you've just heard was published as the cover story of the September 1982 issue of Guitar Player. I want to thank Andy for his permission to turn our 40-year-old recording into this podcast. I also want to thank Nick Hunt for tweaking the sound and for his expert production. This podcast is copyright 2023 by Jazz Obrecht, all rights reserved. Thank you for listening.